Our CSV Image Data Tagger tool is a way to view your images one at a time with a form and then add data to each image and then export that as a CSV. So before I go over too much of what it does, I'm just going to do a quick example of what it can do, and then we'll come back and go over what each of the different options does. So now with this CSV file, you can go into a project and import the CSV and then create an order from the items in the CSV, and the different amounts of information that we put in there can then apply to, say, a memory mate or some other complex product that has information from the photo in it besides just the image. So I'll drop in the CSV we just did. There's no warnings. Now I'm going to say add to cart. And when I go back to the cart and we open them in the editor, this is, so I've already set up a couple of packages. Package A is a 5x7 and 4 wallets, and then it's a memory mate. And you can see I chose a background color of red, and now that's populated into the memory mate. And then here's the different information that I entered in when I set up the data tagger. Is I gave it a couple of global fields, a year and the sport, motocross. Those are populated into the memory mate. And then the team name is here, and then the player name is underneath that. Now, obviously, I've never seen memory mates for motocross pictures. I'm just using these as examples because they're my images. We don't like to use actual kid pictures in videos that we make. So now if I scroll through here, you can see it's built up the order, and somewhere in here I think there's a different memory mate that'll use the background file. So here, this is a different memory mate, and this memory mate has 3 different images in it. It has background image, an individual image, and then a team image. And this background image that I uploaded into the project has a little bit of transparency. I just made this really quick. I wouldn't use this for real, I don't think. And I added in some transparency to it so that the same background color would show up. And so I chose the red color when I made the CSV using the color picker, and chose a color somewhere in here on the first image for that team, or what I'm considering the team, the red bikes for Honda. And then that's showing behind the background image, which was also another global thing that I set up when I made the form, when I made the project for the data tagger, is that here is the background field, and in that I just said MXBG. And if the memory mate, which I think is in package B, has a background node, it will populate that image. So the A's didn't get this. I used the same background in every line of the CSV, but that doesn't mean it had to be used in every one of them, just like it's not needed for the other item in the package, the 5x7 and 4 wallets. And here you can see I changed the team color to be blue to match the Yamaha bikes. Right, it's in there. I think the background color, I think it is blue right there. It's just too dark. You know, not a great example of what the background for the memory mate could be. And so just by creating that CSV file, you can see I created some pretty cool memory mates just off that file. I didn't have to go in and do anything special. I didn't need to rename the files to the kid's name and the team name, which is another way you could do this and do them one at a time. I got the whole thing at once off of the CSV file. And that worked on a project, and the project needed to have any of the images that were going to be needed in there. So the background image for the memory mate on the ones that had the background image needed to be in this same project. When I ran the data tagger, I didn't bother to have these 3 images in it. I only did the individual ones. These are referenced in the data tagger, but they don't need to be in there. And now let's go back and look through how we set up the data tagger. So I'll go back to the tools page. And when I say create a new project, it's going to ask if you really want to do that or use the one that's already there. I'm going to say delete the old one and start with a new one. At the top here, it's saying all work is done in your browser. This is true. Nothing is getting uploaded to us. You could do this probably without an internet connection. As long as you got the page to load first, everything is happening in your browser. That means that if you refresh the page while you're doing this, you could lose some of the information. So you can have a project name. We'll just say test. You can include this in the CSV or not. Sometimes you could use this as the league name, and maybe the league name shows up on the memory mate someplace. So you could name it as the league name and then include that, and that would save you from creating a global field down there. And then we have some presets, packaged ordered and name. Packaged ordered is a required field along with the file name. So the CSV at a minimum needs to have a file name and a packaged ordered column when you import it into one of the project in the simple order system. If you're not using the simple order system and this can do something for you, you can use whatever fields you want, and you can do it fully custom and do whatever you want there. Or packaged ordered, just the one field. Packaged ordered and name, and then there's one where some other information, if you're doing a soccer league, maybe they want to have position and age, number, hometown on some of the other templates. You could have a magnet or a trader card. Some of those things we don't offer at the lab, but maybe you're using this for something else that's supported in here. And when you have different fields on the form, they can be required or not required. So here I have name and packaged order. If you're going to be doing a memory mate and it's going to have the name, you're going to want to have that required. Packaged ordered should always be required if you're going to use this with our simple order system, just so you can order something off of it. And then the other ones, if the kid's package doesn't include anything with position, age, number, hometown, then you can skip it. If you need to rename these to something else, you could. If you want to start out with a smaller preset and then add in just one extra field for something, you can do that. This section here, project fields, is for every single form, so it can be different for every single one. It'll reset when you load the next image. And then there's also validation that you can have, sort of. So on the last step, when you're done tagging all of the images, you can review the data. And title case would be for names or cities. Actually, a lot of the stuff that's in this preset, I would want capitalized their position, the hometown, their name. And when you're on the review step, if the title case isn't like this, the first letter of each word capitalized, it'll warn you and you have a chance to correct it before you export the CSV. It's not going to enforce this while you're doing it. It's just a warning at the end when you review stuff. Or you can have it be anything goes. You can also have it be numbers only if it's age or their number. And again, it won't enforce it. It'll just sort of show you a flag that at the end there may be something wrong with it. And then below here, we have a couple of special fields. Add a background color picker. That's what allowed me to sample a color off of the image that was loaded in the box. If you don't want to do that, if the items that you're ordering don't have transparency in them to allow the background color to show, then you wouldn't need to do that. Add team name. This will give you a field for the team name and the team file name field. And both of these are sticky, that as you go forward, if you have them entered in on one record, when you go to load the next record, they will both pre-populate with what you had chosen already. Once the team changes, and it'll be up to you to know that you need to change the team name and choose another color if you're using both of these, but at least you don't have to do it on every single one of them. Global fields. This is just something that's going to be inserted into the CSV as a column, and every item in that will have the same value. You won't see these on the form because they're global. So in the example I did earlier, I had the background image as a global file, as a global field here, and it just had the file name of that background image. I also had the sport as motocross, and I had the year as 2026. These are things you could also add in easily enough to the CSV itself. It's pretty easy to just say sport here, if I could spell, and then you could type in soccer. And once you have one field in, this little square down here allows you to drag it down, and then you can easily add in a whole column with the same value. That's pretty easy to do, but you can also do it inside the data tagger if you know what you're going to want in advance. It's easy to forget these things and not know what they are until the end, and then you would just want to edit the CSV file inside of Excel or OpenOffice. I'm using OpenOffice Calc to do this, and since it's just a CSV file, it's easy. So we'll remove that, and we'll just show you a simple form here. Add images. So the images that you're going to tag will be the individual images. So in my example, I had a couple of images to sort of symbolize the team, and then I had the background file, and then I had the individual images. You would only need to tag these files in order to do the same thing. The team file doesn't need to be in the CSV file when you upload it to our system if you're going to make an order, because it isn't an item on its own. I suppose if you wanted to order something of just the team image as part of the CSV, you could, but I probably would do that outside of the CSV ordering and just order them manually. So I'll just select these files, and then they're going to load up in here as the thumbnails, and then the first one's going to show here. You get the file name below it, and then sort of a sequence number of where you're at, and then an empty form. Background we have default to a middle gray. And if you want to set that, so this is something I would try to set before I do anything else because it's easy to skip. Same with the team name, and here on the team name, there's a checkbox that says the team file name is the same as the team name plus .jpeg. This just saves you from re-entering in the information. If you rename all of your team photos in advance to what the actual team name is that would show on the memory mate or any other templated product, then you just get this for free down here by choosing the checkbox. You don't have to do that, and if you don't do that, then you're going to need to manually do this file name. When you're tagging these images, that would be pretty difficult to know. I guess if you had Bridge open or another file viewer open, you could see what the different team names are, but to me it would be much easier to rename them all in advance. Same thing with cropping the team name. And any of the other images, we would recommend you crop them before you order them or upload them into the project if you're going to use our system. So we'll recheck that again. It's got some shortcuts down here. When you press enter and you get the little red asterisk on anything that's a required field, when I press enter, it'll automatically take me to the next required field. If there isn't another required field that's empty, it will take you to the next record. So if you had unrequired fields in here, you'd be skipping them. If you just pressed enter, you can press tab to go to the next field, period. So if I'm up here and I press tab, it'll just go through the different things that you can do, the different fields that you can enter in something into. and then save and next. All right, so I tried to click save and next, and it's giving me a warning because I didn't fill out a required field. So I'm just going to press A here, and we recommend in the simple order system, if you're using our system to make an order off of the CSV file, we recommend your packages just be a single letter. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then you have a delimiter. You can use a comma. I think there's a couple other ones. When you import the CSV file, it will ask you what the delimiter was if it wasn't a comma. But I think comma is the best one to use. And so you could say A and B, and then maybe D is a sheet of wallets or something, and they want two of them. You can enter in the same package letter multiple times. And these are packages that you would set up in the simple order system if you're using our system under the project packages CSV ordering. So now that I have this in here, I can press enter and it should load the next record. Same thing as pressing save and next. I wouldn't normally ever press this. I just press enter. So you can just type something in here and I'm just messing around. That's not going to work for what I put as a package, but just to give you an example of how it works. And it looks we're on the last one was a red bike. This one's a blue bike, so you could resample the color. That's pretty dark. And same thing, you would need to redo the team name. And when I go up here and type in a name and a package, and now into the next one, you can see the team name and the team file name have carried forward, so as the color. When you have the thumbnails up above, as you enter in information, you'll see a little green check mark next to the file name. That means that data has been entered in for that image. If there's just a red question mark, that means you haven't added any data to that image. We also show you the first two rows underneath the image. So you get the file name by default, and then you get the first two rows. So name and package for our example. If you're using the more complex preset that had hometown and position and number, you're not going to see all of that, but you can roll over it, and then you can see all of the data for that image. So if you had a few hundred images in here, there'd be a scroll bar here, and you could scroll through the list and you could go back and see what you entered on one. You have to roll over the bottom part below the image to see all of the data. And when you're on the review data page, this is where you can see the validation that it's highlighting these fields. The name field expected it to be title case, so it's expecting this to be capitalized. So if you're zooming through the images and adding in the names, it's really easy to fat finger something like I did here. See how it's got a capital S and a capital S, but then it's got a capital M as the next letter. That is really easy to do in my experience, so it's important to go back through and check to make sure that you didn't do something like that. Like I said, it's at the beginning, it's not enforcing that it's that way, and it's possible. So like some names, Vaughn or something like that in the middle of a name might be lowercase, whereas the other parts of the name need to be uppercase. There isn't really a way for us to enforce it. It's just a way for you to check it and make sure something's in there. You can see there's a couple things here that are required that we didn't fill in. That's where we went forward and it carried the color forward, but we didn't end up actually entering in the data for that. So when you're looking at this, you can also sort by what the issues are. We were looking at the whole amount of data. So if this had hundreds of lines and only one of them had a case issue, it'd be difficult to see that. So you can just look at all of the issues here. You can see the ones that are title case issues, weren't any that were numbers only, and then the one that had required. And then once you fix something in here, you need to make sure you click save and review, and that saved that file, into the data, so that when you export it, it's going to be changed. If I hadn't saved it when you pressed export, it would still be the same as it was before.